Alright, hello and welcome to the first video, besides the introductory video of course, for the online session of COM 250. What I'm trying to produce for you here before the course really gets started are a series of hopefully not too long videos that for each week in the course gives you kind of a summary of what to expect. The course material we'll be covering, and hopefully what will emerge from this as well is maybe a little bit better of an understanding about kind of how you go about accessing excuse me, and ordering the way that you take in the course material. Obviously, these presentations will not be the extent of the course material as far as the content that you receive from me. However, I certainly want you to have an overview of the entire course as you get started, so you can have a better sense of what's to come, and so you have a sense up front of where we're going. So in these videos there will of course be 5 of them. The last week tends to be for wrapping up the course, where we getting to a finish point, projects, things like that. But in these 5 videos, I'll try not to have any run more than 10 or 15 minutes. But in each of these videos, I'll outline basically what we're going to be going to be doing during the week, the kind of content, and maybe a very broad discussion of exactly what kinds of topics and material that we'll cover in a given week. So this is the video for week 1. I have another computer set up to the side with the syllabus is up and the notes for the given weeks, things I need to talk to you about. So that's why I'll look off to the side here to make sure that I'm hitting what I want to cover. What we'll do during the first week, of course, during the first week we'll cover the first couple of chapters of the book Personal Connections in the Digital Age. I'll reach over here where I have the textbooks and show you that one. This textbook here, Personal Connections in the Digital Age. We'll begin with that during week 1, but also week 1, a significant amount of time will be spent outlining the relevant technology that we'll be using for the course. You'll get some tutorials to watch, that type of thing. So let me start by talking about your weekly Google Hangout sessions. Your weekly Google Hangout sessions that you'll be doing. During the first week, all I want you to do is to organize yourselves, probably via email or texts or however you want to go about doing it. Organize your groups. So far, there are 2 groups in this course. And so I'll outline exactly who is in those groups. Each group will pick a time to have a Google Hangout session weekly. Try to allow at least an hour for those. I kind of hope that they run a little bit longer. So, the longer they go, the more you're, dealing with the class material, but try to allow for an hour for those. To the extent that it's possible, I will also join your Google Hangout sessions. Obviously, the time, that you choose, and how that fits into my commitments will have an effect on that, and we might see if we need to work some things out. But from the second week on, I'll be joining you in those, at least popping in to see how things are going, and or touching base to ask if there are any questions. Again, that somewhat depends on the time that you choose and that kind of thing. But I do want to have that level of interaction with you to the extent that it's possible. The first week, since that will kind of run on the fly, I'll just ask you to watch the tutorial video that will be up related to Google Hangout, and a couple of other pieces of material on how to create an account for it, log in. You will need a Google Plus account if you don't already have one, so be prepared to create one of those. It's all free. And even if I'm not able to join your Google Hangouts, either regularly or for a given week for a particular reason. One of the advantages of Google Hangout is it has the ability to record and post to YouTube your Hangout session, so I can at least watch them and then maybe come prepared the next time with the group to respond to what I observed or to respond to you as a group, depending how the discussion went or whatever. I don't want to say too much more about that because I don't want to have all the time allotted to that in this first video. However, I did want to mention it. So your assignment for the first week with respect to Google Hangouts is to get in your groups and to find a time that preferably would be a regular time that you could have a Hangout session each week, work out your schedules, and then meet in Google Hangout and test it out. See if it works for you. Let me know what problems you have, and we'll troubleshoot those as they go. It's pretty straightforward. There's always something here or there that trips up somebody, but it's usually able to be worked out. But that's what the first week is about with respect to that. Okay, so by now you're probably thinking that's all great, but who's in my group? So let's get on with that. Group A will consist of Bradley, Coleman, Hertzler, and Persley. Group B will consist of Pfeiffer, Reinhardt, and Thompson. I will make Hertzler the leader of Group A and Pfeiffer the leader of Group B. This is simply because I happen to have had email correspondence already with those two students, so I have their email addresses, so I can get in touch with them directly for sure, and I will ask them to be responsible for contacting the group members and getting an email chain going to figure out a time to have the Google Hangout sessions. Also, in the first week, you'll get tutorial videos on Present.me and on Blogspot. So you can look at those and begin to familiarize yourself with those types of software. And I'll give you the first week to look at those and familiarize yourself with it. And then we'll move forward in the second week on, moving those platforms into the course as well. So those tutorial videos will be up as well. So you have the tutorial material on Google Hangout and the tutorial material on Present.me and the tutorial material on Blogspot. One thing I should mention with a lot of these tutorials, I'm simply giving you access to tutorials that I present that I've produced for other courses. So references to course material or course assignments may not be specific to your course. One of these days I'll learn that these things are very good to recycle, and I'll make them more general. But if I have one that turns out well, I like to try and keep using it because if it ain't broke, don't fix it and all that. So don't get hung up if you think, oh, that's not my course session, or he's talking about an assignment that doesn't apply to my class. That's not something to worry about. And of course, you'll have some things specific to your class as well. That'll probably then get used in other courses, and I'll have to give the same disclaimer to them. So with that, let me say a little bit about the course material that we'll be covering in the first week. This first video will probably go a little longer than I expect or anticipate because I also covered all of that information on the course platforms and things like that. The first two chapters of Personal Connections in the Digital Age, what they examine basically is they examine the nature of computer-mediated communication and how it is both similar to and different from other types of communication. And it kind of places the material in a bit of a historical context and into a context where you can see the ways that CMC in particular is a unique and probably revolutionary shift in communication models. One big idea that you'll encounter in the first couple of chapters is the idea of how digital media and computer-mediated communication shift our notions of what is real. I had to do the air quotes there. And we talk in the notes that you have there about how in some ways with the advent of technology and the improvement of technology that simulations or the unreal can in many ways be better than reality, or it can be maybe more real than reality, if that makes sense. And the notes you have some examples of that and talk about that more specifically. But that in and of itself is a major shift. We have historically equated the mediated communication that comes that is delivered with some intermediary channel. We've historically thought that that was somehow less than real. But in a digital era, that is a seismic shift. That is arguably not the case anymore. The notes talk through the example of a sporting event to kind of make that point. It's a move from a modernist to a postmodern society as well. Chapter 1 also outlines 7 key concepts that are useful in examining any particular type of technological communication, and you can see them broken down more in the notes you have up to read. But interactivity, temporal structure, social cues. I almost hit a button on the wrong computer. That would have been a disaster. Storage and replicability, reach, and mobility. And again, each of those are concepts that what they mean is outlined in the textbook and in the notes that you have for the chapter. And of course, you'll have other content that you'll get as we go along that will expand those concepts more. But those are some key concepts outlined in the book with respect to examining any technological communication. A lot of good statistics and information on the book about the diffusion of the internet, and statistics that give us a sense of what is called the digital divide. And the digital divide basically looks at the differences in the information haves and have-nots. Of course, those who do and do not have access to technology, or who have access to more or less technology, is a part of that. But as the book outlined and the notes outline, there is also a lot of information there with respect to things like gender, education level, age. So the idea of the ability or comfort or exposure to technology and media being very important factors in the digital divide, and so and how can we bridge that is a key theme there. So you'll have information in chapter 1 on that, but the digital divide is another key concept that will come out of the readings and the notes for week 1. So be mindful of that. Chapter 2, the big ideas in chapter 2 have to do with technological determinism and social construction of technology. They are two competing views on the effects of technology in our culture. Technological determinism can basically be summed up as saying that machines or technology change us, and that social construction can be summed up with the idea that people have the power to use technology for their own ends, or to impact what technology means in a given culture. And again, the book and the notes and other material that you'll get will outline the differences in those. You have one video to watch in particular that outlines that. And so that's a big theme. But again, it's basically, does technology change us, or do we use technology for our own ends? And so that's kind of the big battleground. It's really a central concept. Coming out of that is the idea of what the book calls domesticating technology, which has to do with users learning the benefits and dangers of technology and learning to use it appropriately and placing limits on its role in their lives. That's another big idea that comes out of chapter 2 in the textbook. And so certainly you can see that we'll probably, certainly will be it'll take plenty of time in week 1 to familiarize yourselves with the technology being used in the course, and to get acclimated with how the course works and things like that. But you will have some material, videos that I've provided you links to, and some other material that I'll give you as the course begins that has to do with that. And I would like to say a little bit about that as well. The other material that you'll be getting from me will take a variety of forms, but one thing that I feel pretty confident in telling you is I'll be providing sort of highlights from a traditional day class that I'm conducting, where it's appropriate, but it's a way to make sure that you get a more developed type of information. The form that will take will depend on a variety of factors, but you'll have that. You'll probably have more messages similar to this from me that outline some things in a bit more depth and detail. I don't want to overwhelm you with everything in the course up front, but I want you to have a sense of what's coming and then kind of build on that as we go along. So this is already up against my time limit, so that's our week 1 introductory video. And so now we'll move on to the video that sets up week 2. Thanks.